Hello and welcome to this video. So today I want to talk about basically I want to talk about old jazz compilation CDs. Now over on my Substack, I started a little while ago. I've been writing about these under a section called Antiques and Curios. So basically the premise being that I when I go out to scour the charity shops, second-hand shops for CDs, vinyl, whatever, I find some of these and I bring them back and I put some images of them and talk about them, write them about them a little bit. So I thought I'd apply that principle to the new YouTube video here, and I wanted to talk about some three CDs I picked up the other day for £1 for the lot in a local charity shop, and explain a little of why I find these interesting. So before I sort of go into what we're looking at, really these I find them interesting is when I was in the 80s, when I was growing up as a teenager, um, these compilations, which I actually bought on cassette at the time, I didn't have a CD player until the early 90s, were really pivotal in me, building my catalog, which I more in jazz, but more importantly, um, as an education, as a sampler, as a world, really. These were like little auditory messages from the past that were beamed into like the 80s South England from New York or wherever in the States from the 1950s or and before, sometimes afterwards. And I really did my uh, a lot of these are really based on the tastes that I developed later are based on some of these correlations. So the cassettes have sort of moved to move throughout your life have long gone. But what I am found over the years is that if I do see these at a reasonable price, I pick up some of these CDs again. And why I find them so interesting is the CD boom that happened around the time when I was growing up. The amount of reissues. So it's very difficult. People in the digital age or people born later to realize that at one time you couldn't just press a button and everything was there. Back when I was coming up, there was a lot of this stuff wasn't there. A lot of these titles were deleted. The vinyl was places weren't selling records like they do now and like they had before. And cassettes and the CD boom would really see a lot of titles and a lot of labels dig out stuff and reissue. But this took some time. And what some of the companies did was to release compilations of stuff that they had in the vaults there and put those out. But they were incredibly well done. And you got some good sleeve notes with them from good writers as well. I mean, I've written about, and I might well review it on here, Marks and Spencer's, the department store had had a music label that had run from the 70s onwards, issuing stuff on LP and cassette, and then in the 90s went in for issuing jazz CDs as well. And you've got one of them's got sleeve notes by the jazz writer who did the Charles Mingus biography and the Penguin Guide to Jazz by Brian Priestley. What I like about them is the care that's taken with them, the liner notes, the lineups on there. It's all explained well. It's a really great little package that you could take away, when they were bought new for a reasonable price, and now that I can pick up for even cheaper. So there's an element of nostalgia there, but there's an element of history, and also there's just some great music to listen to. So let's move into what I picked up. So the first one, Sidney Bechet. I don't know if you can see that there. This is on the Bluebird label, which is a sort of budget label for RCA Victor. Now on CD, there's a few that I've got in this. I can show you. It's really nice sleeve on that. $7.99 at the time, I believe. And I've got a few of these. They reissued Gil Scott-Heron's some of his early 70s work under an album called it was called The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. So it's some from a couple of those first albums that Gil Scott-Heron put out. There's one that I've got on classic jazz piano, which is really good. It's classic jazz trumpets, some Jimmy Rushing stuff on there. It's really great. This one of Bechet being one of my favorite musicians, not just from New Orleans, but in general, the tone, the phrase, it's just fantastic stuff. And I don't have to tell jazz fans too much about Sidney Bechet, but like about these CDs, you've got this the front cover there, and then this little lot of pulls out there, and then these great sleeve notes inside that talk about the CD when it was records and potted history. And this is by Bob Wilbur, who's a clarinetist himself. It was a student, protege of Bechet, so he's well qualified to write this stuff. And as in terms of the music, we're looking at Bechet's perhaps less popular period here, but this period between 1930 and 40s. So you've got stuff recorded of the New Orleans Feet Warmers. You've got High Society recorded Jelly Roll Morton on here. Talk about jazz, absolute jazz history, jazz gold. And then some Bechet tracks under his own name, particularly fantastic version of When It's Sleepy Time Down South on here, Blues in the Air, 12th Street Rag, and he has a go at Ellington's Mood Indigo as well. It's a fantastic package. You've got some great players on there. You've got Baby Dodds on drums, and you've got Earl Hines. This is great. And if you can find it for relatively inexpensive on the internet, or if you should be lucky enough to find it in the shop, I really, really recommend that. So that's the Bechet on Bluebird there, the legendary Sidney Bechet, and that came out in '89, I think, this compilation. So I didn't have at the time, but if it had been around, I would have found it, but on CD. So that's great. Now, the two that I'm really excited to talk about here is on the Verve compact jazz label. So that one's the Charlie Parker one. There's several Charlie Parker. Charlie Parker plays the blues. Charlie Parker plays standards. These are all come on the Verve Jazz. So the compact jazz is not a label, it's from the Verve label themselves. It's a series, and there was a lot in the series. Now, I remember these in shops like Woolworths, H&V, whatever. These were all available on tape. These were sort of like the gateway, and these were cheaper than other tapes and stuff at the time, very affordable. I look at this, or one of these that I've got here, and it was $8.49 on CD and our price at the time, which seems quite a lot for what compared to what I originally paid for it on tape. But anyway, these are great. And I had back in the day, as they say, I had stuff on there. There was a Duke Ellington. There was Getz. There was all of these. A lot of performers that I picked up on here, and this one Charlie Parker one, which I found the other day in this all for £1, as I said. This is stuff between 49 and 50. Less sleeve notes with this, but it's got the information, the players on it as well, and it's full of the classics. It's got Blumida on it, Just Friends with Strings from the Strings album. There's Now's the Time, which is on one of my favorites, and Night and Day, Lover Man, all of those things on there. So I'm just looking at the complete compact jazz series. So you had Count Basie, Bill Evans on there, as I said, Stan Getz, Billie Holiday, Wes Montgomery, Oscar Peterson. And then they did around the second releases later on. So you got Buddy Rich, Best of Bossa Nova, Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, which is one that I had, Ella Fitzgerald, etc. And these are great. And then there's just a small note on the back, and we know about Parker anyway. They're the great CDs. This, and as I said, 49 to 53 on this one. You got Miles on it, Dizzy, Thelonious Monk. I mean, areas that we all probably know from the compilations, but as in back when I had this was manna when I got this on cassette to be able to listen to Parker back then. And I was reading the Ross Russell Bird Lives biography that I picked up as well. So I was really steeped in this stuff when I was about 14 or 15 years old. So much so that what was actually happening in contemporary music at the time, I wasn't interested in at all. I was away with this. This was an ultimately more exciting world, and still is. Now, the other one last one here that I really want to talk about again is on Verve Compact Jazz. And this is two of my favorite saxophonists, but Ben Webster is absolutely a favorite of mine. And this is a compilation of sort of the three albums that they did on, sort of collaborated on Verve. So you had the Coleman Hawkins and Countess Ben Webster, and then there was blues saxophones, and there was another one as well. And you've had backup from Oscar Peterson, Herb Ellis on guitar. This has got Benny Carter on it as well, and it just pulls together 11 tracks from those records. It sounds really great. I mean, you've got small amounts of info on the back on the sleeve notes there. And then the track listing in there, there's some great stuff. It never entered my mind. Don't get around much more. Maria, Blues for Yolanda, all those great Coleman Hawkins and Ben Webster's. And as I said, I mean, unbelievable value if you're just still interested in what they call, awful phrase, physical media. I mean, this is actually what it is. Like we just live in this virtual bubble now, own the stuff. 75, 25p each or whatever, £5 for the lot, whatever it all works out at. That's that's great. You can have this sort of stuff, play it in the car, play it at home. They sound super. They're great little compilations, they're great little relics of the stuff that was recorded at the time. And then historically, but what was happening with the CD boom in the late 80s, and bringing my own story into that as well. So yeah, some great CDs. So this series, as I said, that I had on Substack, Antiques and Curios, I will still keep going, but I'm going to move it to the YouTube as well. And as I periodically pick up stuff or go back over stuff that I've written about, I might pull out and review again, because recently I picked up some rather good stuff, and I know the jazz music fans out there might enjoy that. So let's hold those three up there. So that's a pound well spent, isn't it? Um, and thank you very much for watching and listening, and I'll be back with you again pretty soon. Okay, have a good day. Bye bye now.